Hello, and welcome. This is the YouTube Historian. The tech industry is a billion-dollar ecosystem filled with innovation, marketing, and at times, shady business practices. At the center of it all stands Gamers Nexus, the consumer watchdog that refuses to stay silent. Led by Steve Burke, the channel has built its reputation on rigorous testing, aggressive journalism, and exposing unethical practices. But when you go up against some of the biggest names in gaming and hardware, you don't make many friends. From MSI, NZXT, Gigabyte, Asus, Intel, and even Linus Tech Tips. But more on that later. Steve has fought battles that have changed the industry forever. This is the untold story of Gamers Nexus. Before he was one of the most feared tech reviewers on YouTube, Steve Burke was just a passionate PC gamer. Steve started out as a writer in the gaming and hardware industry. He wrote for tech sites before launching Gamers Nexus as a blog in 2008, back when written reviews were still dominant. As YouTube grew, so did Gamers Nexus. Steve pivoted to video content, and by the mid-2010s, Gamers Nexus became synonymous with deep-dive, data-driven reviews. While others focused on entertainment, Steve went all in on hardcore testing and investigative journalism. But being a truth seeker in an industry built on marketing dollars comes at a cost. And Steve has definitely had several controversies as a result of it. 2020 was a rough year for PC gamers. The rise of cryptocurrency mining, chip shortages, and scalpers made GPUs nearly impossible to buy. But what shocked the community wasn't just the shortage, it was MSI's own involvement in price gouging. Steve and his team uncovered that MSI's subsidiary, Starlit Partner, was scalping their own RTX 3080 graphics cards at massively inflated prices on eBay. Rather than selling GPUs at MSRP, MSI was secretly jacking up prices to take advantage of desperate gamers. Gamers Nexus exposé forced MSI to issue a public apology, refund affected customers, and promise internal changes. But for many, the damage was done. It was proof that even major companies were willing to exploit their own fans for profit. One of the most infamous moments in Gamers Nexus history was the Gigabyte power supply controversy.
This is called a catastrophic failure. So is this, and this. And all of these power supplies are the Gigabyte GP P750GM, or closely related GP P850GM.
In 2021, Steve and his team uncovered a major issue with certain Gigabyte PSUs that were prone to catastrophic failure. Instead of ignoring it, they exposed the flaw, causing massive backlash against the company.
So we strongly believe that these failures could be prevented with better design and probably better component selection.
This was a defining moment. Steve's work led to real accountability, but also made him a target for corporations who saw him as a liability rather than an asset. Then came Artesian Builds, a custom PC company that imploded after a scandal involving unethical giveaway practices and mismanagement. When Gamers Nexus investigated, they uncovered financial instability and misleading business practices, leading to the company's collapse.
How you go from 20 million a year in revenue to bankrupt? Well, a lot of that is because of this guy.
Steve's reporting wasn't just about tech, it was about ethics. But his aggressive approach didn't sit well with everyone. In 2023, Asus was caught in a massive PR nightmare when Gamers Nexus exposed how they changed their warranty policies to avoid covering defects. Steve broke the story, proving that Asus had quietly altered their warranty terms after customers had already purchased their products. This led to public outcry and forced Asus to revert the policy. Several members of Asus management agreed to meet with Steve for an interview.
So I think in front of camera, first of all, we need to send our deepest apology, to the community, and to everyone else, who has this type of RMA problem in the past. Sorry for that. We really apologize for that, and we know that we messed up. It's not confusion. It's not anyone's fault. It's our fault. To cause that kind of trouble for everyone. And we've been working on that since the first video,
in which they discussed the policies and commitment to improve their handling of warranty claims and customer care. This was yet another example of corporate deception that might have gone unnoticed without independent reviewers. Gamers Nexus started to receive multiple reports from frustrated customers who had received new products from Newegg that were clearly used, as well as issues with Newegg's RMA process and forced bundled sales. Gamers Nexus began investigating these claims and discovered that Newegg's OpenBox section was not always clearly labeled, with many items appearing as new on the main listings, but marked as OpenBox or refurbished after the purchase was made. Other issues discovered show the amount of RMA requests that were being denied by Newegg. As Gamers Nexus dug deeper, it became clear that this wasn't an isolated issue. Many customers found that Newegg's response was minimal or unsatisfactory. When the complaints piled up, Newegg was slow to offer solutions or refunds and didn't properly address why the OpenBox issue was so widespread. After some back and forth between Steve and members of Newegg Corporate, they had an uncut, on-camera interview discussing these issues. Newegg attempted to respond to the criticism by issuing official statements promising to implement better customer service policies, especially in regard to returns on OpenBox items and clearer product labels on the site. But for many customers, this was too little too late. But without a doubt, the biggest controversy faced by Gamers Nexus was with LTT. It all started when Linus Tech Tips released a review of the Billet Labs monoblock, a prototype GPU water block that was not meant for the card they tested it on. The problem? Instead of admitting the error, LTT published misleading performance results that completely misrepresented the product. Gamers Nexus, known for fact-checking and data accuracy, called out the mistake in a video, but what made things worse was Linus's initial response, dismissing the criticism, refusing to take down the video, and making sarcastic remarks about the issue.
But it was designed for a 3090 Ti. Well, we went for gold and we tried it with a 4090. The temperature results were bad. It was clear that it wasn't making perfect contact, and so Adam was the writer on that project. What Adam asked is if we could spend more time, put the 3090 Ti on it, and get real results. And what I told him was no, because, and guys, come on, like, for real, okay? It's $800 US. I don't know, guys. I'm not sure if I can apologize for not spending another $100, $200, $300, $500 of various people's time.
Things escalated quickly. Gamers Nexus released a 40-minute expose detailing not just the Billet Labs incident, but a history of errors, rushed testing, and poor journalistic ethics at LTT.
It's unfair to consumers who get misled to bad purchases or not understanding the product. It's unfair to companies when there are major points that are erroneous and aren't properly addressed or handled. And it's unfair to other reviewers who actually are willing to invest the time and, yes, even $100 or $500 or whatever it takes in some cases to get it done right.
The report compiled dozens of mistakes across multiple videos, from incorrect benchmark charts to outright misleading data. The backlash was immediate. Faced with overwhelming backlash, Linus Tech Tips finally issued a public apology.
I owe you guys better, and I'm sorry. For my part, first, I'm going to be working through the other members of the exec team for any crisis communication moving forward. And second, I'm going to spend my week working with the other teams to develop a system of processes that will help our company fulfill my vision of being a world-class tech media organization.
Effective immediately, all YouTube video production is on pause. And our teams are going to be spending this entire next week focusing on long-term workflow changes to make our content better in a lasting way.
This was a wake-up call for the tech content industry, proving that even the biggest names could be held accountable. Gamers Nexus exposed disturbing attempts by Intel to manipulate media coverage, pushing reviewers to test CPUs under favorable conditions that conveniently hid major power and thermal issues, particularly with the Intel 13th and 14th generation i9 series processors. When Gamers Nexus refused to play along, Intel responded with silence, restrictions, and soft blacklisting. With power-hungry processors running hot and underperforming in real-world conditions, Intel wanted to control the narrative. Steve called out the company for its misleading tactics, and in response, Intel denied any wrongdoing. They did admit that communication missteps were made. Intel faced backlash, and its reputation was tarnished amongst enthusiasts in the space. Also, there were the issues reported with NZXT, a company known for its variety of hardware and stylish design. Gamers Nexus reported issues with the H1 computer case. Steve's team found that the included PCIe riser cable was a literal fire hazard due to poor grounding. NZXT initially downplayed the issue, suggesting a simple screw replacement as a fix instead of issuing a full recall. It wasn't until Gamers Nexus and Hardware Canucks refused to let the issue go that NZXT was forced to acknowledge the problem and recall the case. But the bigger controversy was when NZXT introduced a subscription-based rental service for gaming PCs, in which users could pay monthly to rent a system instead of buying it outright. Steve and the team jumped into investigation mode. While it was marketed as an affordable way for gamers to access high-end hardware, Gamers Nexus quickly exposed the flaws. The biggest issues? The total cost over time was astronomical. After a couple of years of payments, users would have paid far more than the PC was worth. Additionally, the contract terms were unclear about hardware upgrades, damage liabilities, and ownership. Steve Burke's team broke down the real financial impact.
If we planned to rent the PC for at least 3 years, it would be cheaper to take an illegal and possibly mob-backed loan for 175 days instead, and then own the computer at the end of it, assuming no kneecaps are busted in the process.
Once again, Gamers Nexus forced a major tech company to rethink its business practices, proving that consumers will push back when given the right information. At the end of the day, Steve Burke and Gamers Nexus aren't just reviewers. They're advocates for transparency in the tech space. From exposing corporate deception to holding fellow YouTubers accountable, their work has changed the industry. What do you think? Has Gamers Nexus made the tech world better? Or do you think Steve Burke takes things too far? Let us know in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more YouTube history. This was the YouTube Historian. Thanks for watching. Stay safe. Catch you in the next video.